qualifiers,
Oh
and that's
yeah,
when I started watching after that.
I
But
see.
yeah,
yeah,
but the
I think
World
that was
Cup
the
it
high.
was one of the best played.
I mean, yeah, no, that was like the
So,
highest. That was probably the best we ever played, and after that, it just. I mean, 2015 Gold Cup was okay, but then you saw like how Herrera coached us and all that. I didn't really like all that, but I really feel like the downfall started in 2016 and then on.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you're not wrong. We really haven't seen much change in a decade. Shit, you can even go back 20 years, right? Like Mexico is a very consistent country where they do qualify to the World Cup. They just can't get past the round of 16, and they're in a very comfortable position, right? We're in a federation where it's you can literally like pass with a D plus. Like the competition is not good enough for us to get compromised at any point. Like we're still going to qualify to the World Cup, and we also have a very unique situation where we can sell out these games in the United States. We play more games in the United States than we do in our own country, right? So it's like a very unique situation where like the cash cow for the CONCACAF region, and we're just being exploited, you know. And the saddest part is that everyone's going along with it because they're deepening their pockets. Everyone's getting their cut, so no one really cares about the actual product on the field because we're lining up our pockets with money, and we're starting to see the repercussions of that.
well, I think, but see, for me the problem with the national team is not playing Moleros in the U.S. It comes down to the Mexican League. So I
Yeah,
don't. We're talking about downfall, and you're saying the Chile game. Not so much because of the Chile game. It was more to do with the league when they started adding more and more foreigners, and now you went from 3 and 4 or 4 and 5 to 8 or 9, and I mean, so think about how many when you add that many foreigners per team. Think how many Mexicans that leaves out of the league in that year. Think how many Mexican players in 10 years. How many? Like if you add up, that's a lot of players that were just like pushed to the side. And I like using this example. And I'm gonna keep using it with um, damn Ramoncito Morales. He was he was one of the players that Chivas bought from Monterrey. He wasn't even really known. They brought him in as backup. He ended up becoming a very good player. Went on to go play World Cups and everything. So how many players like Ramon Morales have washed out because the league said, okay, we're going to go with more foreigners. And I think that's one of the things we've been seeing happening, where it's like, especially if you're a Chivas fan, you should see it the most. How hard it is for them to get a Mexican player. They're lucky if they get one. But before they were able to buy 4 or 5. Now they're stuck with one. And so that trickles down all the way to the Mexican national team, where it's like there's just not that much talent, you know, to compete for positions, not just in the club but also positions in the national team. And you end up with someone like Jimenez still being called up, and other players that are cold because there's kind of almost no one else. There's very, very little competition. And I think the league, they finally realized it, but it's going to take a while. So, what the new changes they did with second division being pretty much the way they structured it, so there could be more Mexican players, I think we're going to start seeing that, but it'll take maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years to see those results.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I wanted to bring up real quick on Braulio's point. I think also it has to do like with generations. So when Mexico almost didn't make the World Cup that one year, they had like their top. That was like their golden generation. Chicharito, Gio, and all those guys were like coming up. They were just divas at the point at
Wait,
that
wait,
time.
Chick is really quick.
Yeah,
See, because I have a crank with that. And see, this was the media, because the media called golden generation for winning an under 15 World Cup.
Yeah.
Dude, come on. That's so exaggerated. And I think that's one of the problems
Okay.
we see with Mexico and with, no, I'm not, I'm just using that as an example, but you see it with the fans because they create these really high expectations. And it's like, well,
Okay. So
misleads fans. But you're right though. Your take is still right about that. That was supposed to be the golden generation.
Let the man cook, Joel.
Yeah,
he raised a great point.
We know you got the vision, so let him cook.
He never joins anymore. You got to let him talk. Go ahead, Beto.
That is the golden generation. Okay, so yeah, I'll agree that's an exaggeration, the golden generation. Let's just say it's one of the top generations. Good amount of youth, like you were saying. Maybe they had that opportunity from the World Cup. Chicharito came up in Chivas and all that. And so your point is valid, but also I think the generational point. And we're like so those players are all sort of like getting to that older point, but a new crop of younger players hasn't came up, probably because of what you mentioned about the foreigners and everything. And so that's what we're trying to climb out of. We're at this low point where I think a couple of World Cup cycles ago, everyone in CONCACAF was at that point. Honduras, Guatemala, maybe the U.S., Costa Rica. And Mexico was at the top. That's how they struggled a little bit. I think they tied with the U.S. or something. But now Mexico's on the downhill, and we just need to get that crop of players to come back up. And I don't see that happening as impactful as before, especially with the U.S. who's on the top. Like they got all their good young players. I think they were hindered because of the Gio Reyna beef that was going on in the World Cup, so they didn't have the best World Cup last time. But this time, with these younger players, if they can get them all together, that they should be a pretty good team.
You raised a good point, Chiquis, really quick on the, how other teams in the region, and you kind of saw it. So this was around the time Osorio was coach, and then with some of the teams also with La Volpe, and so when the media talks about pasamos caminando, and then they expect to always have those type of results against some of these teams, and I think the media does a disservice when they don't let the people know, oh, this is a pretty weak team compared to how strong they can be.
One thing I want to address, I was there 2 years ago covering the Gold Cup final, right, over there in Vegas. And one thing that I can tell you is a lot of the people that attend these matches, they're coming from very long places. Not all of them live in Nevada. People drive out from all kinds of places in the States for these matches. And it's just like an embarrassment. It's like, people earn their, spent their honest money to watch this shit. Like, I would request a refund, dude, if I went to that game, man. It's embarrassing.
But Jaime, it's buying a ticket. It's not a guarantee for a spectacle.
I know,
yeah,
but
La Puente said that you want to be entertained, go to the circus, dude. And I think, I get it traveling because opportunities a lot of people are going to have to watch national team in person, maybe once a year, maybe once every 3 years. So they'll do that sacrifice. But dude, the prices they're paying, I just wouldn't. It's crazy how much money they will spend for a game.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, man, it's we get to go in as press, right? So we don't know. I can't imagine how much the tickets were today, but it's like, what a terrible experience, right? Like you see your team lose 3-0, and then they're back on Sunday for a meaningless third place match, and
just parking is like $50.
And it's crazy that despite like the USA advancing to the final, Mexico was able to bring them down to their level and get a few red cards. So, they're going to be at a disadvantage on Sunday. And Mexico's like, haha, you guys have this final to play against Canada without some of your, players. And for us, it's like we had already lost. You guys were stupid for falling for our trap. But man, they don't have time to adapt, man. Dio Coca, if they allow him to stay after this, I mean the leash was already short, but any indications of failure in the Gold Cup, there's no way. There's no way, man. I cannot see him surviving this summer.
Well,
It's four games.
the thing is, though, firing him isn't going to make a difference because the standards are only going to drop from here on out. With the next World Cups now being 48 teams, we're going to qualify every time now. So I really don't see much changing from here on out because we're just going to keep making every World Cup. I really feel like, I mean, we're automatically into the next World Cup, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, even in 2030, we're still going to make it. There's 48 teams.
Did you hear that McKenna and Lopez got in a fight in the tunnel after the game?
Sorry, that's my brother.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah.
Did you hear about it?
Yeah.
Okay, Lopez is injured.
Now,
He got injured.
here's
from
the
that?
one.
Jeez,
Oh.
McKenna beat his
Here's the one thing that I'll say is we keep saying that it was a terrible performance and this and that. I myself, as a Mexican, as someone who's here for el desmadre, I fucking loved it. All right, yeah, I
Same.
spent my money like a Super Bowl. There was chingazos, there was beer thrown. They shouted "puto" multiple times. Come on, man. What do you want? It was the rivalry match that we all wanted to see, and it played out that way. It just so happened que nosotros nos metieron la vergüenza.
It's just gotten to the point now where I just watch it just for the chaos, bro. Like once that ref ended the match, I was just hoping, like, well, I hope they lay the hammer down on us. Like, I want to see if they'll actually go through with, like, if they punish us by like placing
They're
a ban on
not
us.
brave enough.
But they're not
dude.
gonna do that. Yeah,
They don't have the balls to do it.
They
They'll
don't.
just end
They
the
don't.
game.
You
They'll
fucking
just end
gave the
the
World
game
Cup to Qatar.
Yeah.
exactly. Hypocrites.
This is my kind of conversation, man. I was loving it. Like the MVP of this match was the ref. He was like he could have stopped that game. He could have stopped that game and like avoided the final grito. But he let it roll, man. He said, okay, if they're gonna do it, which they were already prepping for the grito. And he let it roll, and then they did it, and then he stopped the game. I was like, man, you dummy. You just made the finale of that match right there.
He added those 12 minutes too. He was asking for it.
Bro, those were just 12 puto minutes nonstop, okay?
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier, but I will say that they need to stop having Central American refs, you know, for these USA Mexico matches, because they don't know how to handle, they don't know how to control the game. We need a neutral. We need someone from Switzerland. We need someone, you know, a referee that's not from this region. Because, like, I'm sorry, man, the refereeing here in CONCACAF is absolute trash. And for some reason, when it's a Mexico USA match, they always pick someone that's just like a little bit too close to home. You know what I mean? Like we have a rivalry with El Salvador and Guatemala and all these Central American countries, and I don't think they are 100% like agnostic. I think they do have their biases and their preferences, and they tend to sway a certain way. Is all I'm saying. But
well, with that being said,
yep.
Did Antuna target Reina on that hit? Was it a targeted hit where he busted up his nose and everything?
I'm not sure. I didn't catch that part. Was that towards the end of the match?
No, that would have. I think that was like the beginning of the second half.
Oh.
There was a moment where they were going up for a disputed ball. Antuna kind of looks like it's targeting, right? Like he's going more towards the player for the ball. But Reina smashes himself against Antuna's shoulder, and there's like mole and everything pouring out. And that was the beginning of when things started getting really chippy.
Real quick, we have our number one fan joining us, Ricardo. Welcome to the podcast. Glad you're able to hop on. And boy, I have a question for you, but you have the floor. He had that in the chamber for a month, bro. He's been waiting to play that song.
Gentlemen, how's it going?
What's up, man? Welcome.
Not too good.
Not too good.
La pregunta es necia. Come on.
Well, I, for one, I'm very happy because I'm on team burn it all down. I've been disillusioned with this team since even the World Cup started. Like like if you take a look at how the U.S. they missed that World Cup, and no one blinked an eye because no one gives a shit about soccer in the U.S. but but their generational shift of players, they they took a way too long to change those players, right? And they ended up missing out on that World Cup. And Mexico got away with that for the last two World Cups because I think it was pretty much the same base of players for the Russia and what was the one before
Qatar.
that?
Oh, Brazil, I mean?
Yeah, there you go. If you look at those rosters, it's pretty much the same base, and Mexico got away with that. And I think they're like one of my favorite movies in The Waterboy. The chickens are coming home to roost, Bobby Boucher. Because these players, one of my main gripes when I first called into this show, because I am the #1 fan, and no one can take that away from me, is that the Mexican players. Because if you take a look at a couple of those goals, that second goal is pretty much a little. It was more. It was more of a race than actual football. I mean, the cross. I mean, and what I mean by that is that these Mexican players, they're so out of shape because all they do in Mexico, everyone is washing their balls, telling them how great they are, and and after the game, they're out drinking, they're out with the nalgonas, they're having a good time.
Can't hate on
They're
that.
making appearances with Peso Pluma. Yeah, man, life is good in Mexico.
Pretty much, but what I'm trying to get at is these Mexico players, they don't like I seen this coming since the last two World Cups. There's no bad hombres. There's a bunch of divas, a bunch of players that I know it's cliche to say, but none of them have any attitude. I know football's more than huevos.
Character, you mean?
But there you go, bingo. You good word. They don't have that. They don't have a presence to them. Like if you go back to the past World Cups, there was always Rafa Marquez, old Rafa Marquez, but he was there to anchor the defense, even though we always ended up getting porked, right?
We always had a protagonist, Quao. We've had players like
Exactly.
that. I think the only one from the old guard rather, was Guardado when he announced his retirement from the national team.
Mm-hmm. And you look at this team. Who are you looking at in this team and pointing and saying,
I'm the captain.
He's the captain. He's the bad hombre Trump warned me about. Who? Like which one?
Hey, all right. I got to call you out, Ricardo, because I saw a common denominator at these goals that Mexico received tonight, and they all have a certain stench to them. They're all players from America, man. Jorge Sanchez on that first goal, that's all him. And, the Coladera Ochoa, man. So a lot of your players were out there tonight, bro, and they looked like ass.
America doesn't take credit for Jorge Sanchez, man. He's Santos.
Always got the excuses ready, man. Oh, you're quick.
Always. Well, the Coladera, I'll give you that. People he has excellent press in the media. Everyone keeps saying, "Oh, he's gonna be the next 2026." It's him, no one else. 2026 is him. But you see him move around under the post. He's old, man. He's slow. He's old. He doesn't have it anymore.
He's never been good at coming out. You know what I mean? And that was you saw that evident today. He has great reflexes when the shots are coming near him, but for other things, bro, it's just like this guy's not it. And unfortunately, we don't really have any other like next in kin, right? You don't look at anybody on the bench saying, "Oh, this guy's gonna bench Ochoa." No, not even close, dude.
No.
And
are you hoping for what is that guy's name? Wally. Chivas keeper.
Wally.
Where's Wally?
Wally.
Maybe Wally can step up, dude.
Yeah.
He's got his Mex
That's
card now, Mexi Pass.
That's a discussion for another podcast, but
hey, dude, you never know. He has a good season.
our sporting director is finding the cheat codes, trying to find anyone that's associated with Mexico. Maybe they crossed the
vacation.
They went to Hong Kong for a weekend. Hey, he's eligible to play for Chivas, man. He was in Mexico. He's
vacation.
Mexican. Yeah.
He went to spring break in Acapulco.
Yeah.
He drank
for
a
sure.
Corona.
Quiere gansito.
Oh, dude, he put it in the freezer. He's okay in my.
Bro, but like, all right, dude. Israel Reyes, dude, also America player. Fucking trash, dude. Trash bag today.
Hey, but there's a perfectly good explanation for that. He's fooling around with that star fucker, that girl that plays for Liga MX.
All I know is Osvaldo Sanchez had a very inappropriate comment about a love triangle between Reyes and some other who's the other guy involved? I don't know.
Very unprofessional, man.
Kevin Alvarez.
Kevin Alvarez. I guess they banged the same chick, and yeah, it's like, oh yeah, Kevin Alvarez moves well on and off the pitch with this girl. Like, damn, that's messed up, bro.
Jaime Roque, but the last time that happened with America teammates, America won 2 titles, man. So I'm all for it.
Yay. I remember everybody was backlashing Wesley Schneider because he said that Sanchez is not a great defender. He only knows how to pass the ball laterally or behind. And, at the time, everybody in Mexico was like, oh, you're such a hater or whatever. But the dude's spitting facts, bro.
You want an apology?
But who would you replace him with, Jaime? These are like the best guys.
Mosul.
Yeah.
I would take Mosul.
Yeah, totally.
Mosul had a great
defensive liability, man.
I know Mosul's a hothead, and I know part of him kind of getting blacklisted from the national team was because he was part of the pre-Olympic process, and then they told him last minute that he was not going to go to the Olympics. He had a bitch fit. He has been called back from the national team since. We got him on a discount because of that, because he was at Pumas. So I don't know, man. I think he's blacklisted from the national team. You look at Pocho, right, from Chivas. He's been blacklisted from the national team. You had Orozco, who had an incredible playoff Liguilla, didn't get called up, right? So I don't know, man. Chivas had a great run. There should have been more Chivas out there tonight, and I bet you we wouldn't have lost 3-0.
It's incredible how scoring a goal against America makes you European bound, makes you worth $15 million, makes you forget the rest of the season when he was garbage. Let's just focus on the America goal, because that's what counts. But it's not Pocho Guzman, Jaime. It's Polvo Guzman. Everyone knows why that guy doesn't show up.
Ooh, that's a very... Bro, you got these written down somewhere. That is a very good... I like that.
Hey, but who is he going to sit? Who is he going to sit? Who would you start him over? Because in Chivas, they played him as a false 9, as a wing back, as a coach, as a goalie.
When they put him on false 9, that's when he went down, right?
I would put him straight in the midfield. I would have put him in the midfield today.
Yeah.
He's not a difference maker. He's a choker. Look what happened against Tigres.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not just on him, bro. It was on. Honestly, Alexis Vega deserves more criticism. He got subbed out in the 60th minute. He didn't even show up today. I know he's battling some injuries. It is what it is. But
how long is this guy gonna battle injuries? They've been saying this for 2 years now, man. Es un puerco.
You know what it is, Ricardo? It's something that you were talking about earlier, and I think when you look at some of the you look at the difference between the U.S. national team and the Mexican national team is that the U.S. national team, you have professional athletes, right? Whereas in Mexico, you have good players that like to go hit up the bars and all that stuff, man. There's no professionalism there, man. So a guy like Alexis Vega, his ass is just going to continue to expand, because he doesn't care enough. He's a star in Mexico and he's making a lot of money.
That's a good point, Colo. It is common with a lot of Mexican players that they don't take that, that aspect of the match more serious, and we see it with like Chofis, who has a lot of talent, which I think it's the type of player the Mex national team needs. But would show up to Chivas camp overweight,
Yeah.
and
And
then
then
during the season, just be in all type of, scandals.
yeah. No, there's some good talent. The problem is that they don't take their craft seriously, right? And so that's sort of the problem. Trophies. What was it? I don't know how he did this past season, but the season before, under Almada, less distractions, and I don't know if Almada knew how to get into his head, but dude had a good had a good season that season, and I don't know how he did this last one, but you're not hearing like a whole lot of bad
Yeah.
crap about the guy. But again, the problem with the Mexican player is it's too late when they figure it out sometimes. So yeah, no, I just really think it's a lack of professionalism.
And Colo, I'm gonna bring it back to this what I was saying. When the less competition, the more you can relax. Because it's like if you're a Chivas dude, like look how long Trophies was able to stay. That's a player they should have gotten rid of a long time ago, but they just couldn't replace him. So he ended up there like a decade.
Same with that guy. What's his name? The Saldivar. That guy was there for like 20 years, right? And he had like 10 goals.
I think
He
it's a tie between Chapo Sanchez and Isaac Brizuela. I think those guys have been with the team for over a decade now.
So he had some bad luck. Hope I'm not confusing him. You know,
No,
he had that
right.
pretty good. He had that one good season, and they sent him to Monterrey.
Yeah.
Monterrey, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they even request him. They weren't even going to use him. It's almost like they were trolling Chivas. Like, we'll sell you this player, but give us your best striker.
Hey,
which just really quick, and it was like a stupid ass move because it was a lone switch, right? They sent that Tronco from. He used to be an Atlas, really tall guy. I forget his name. Yes, Madrigal, like 6'5", and they will send you this guy.
Certified
And
Tronco.
Chivas, I don't know who. Could have been Pelaez. I'll give you guys that one. They they signed on it, and I don't know, man. That was just.
It was a weird time. I think Cardoso was coaching at the time, and discarded him or something. But yeah, as far as today, I want to ask you guys a question. Has the gap closed? Is the United States now considered our equals, or is this just like a bad time for Mexico?
Like you can't discount that I don't know who it was that was saying that I know I've always said that it's cyclical, right?
Yeah.
The situation.
That's me, Cole.
But the issue right now is that it's not looking like a cycle because Mexico's not producing. There's no depth, there's no competition, there's no extra players, right? And to add, Canada's kind of gotten, and I don't know if it's just going to be a single generation, but they're doing pretty well. US has a lot of depth, and they're continuing to produce, right?
And they're young.
So if this is a cyclical thing, this is going to be a long ass cycle until Mexico gets things going. I know that this new person in charge of I'm guessing it's the FMF or national team or whatever, is talking big right now about how they're letting them be the say all, do all, and the sporting part of it is coming first. I know, to me, it's a lot of lip service until I see something happening, right?
What's the league? It's the league. That's where we're gonna see the players coming in.
Right.
That second division, and again, it's gonna take 2-3 years.
Yeah.
To start seeing results, because in my opinion, it's gonna be the younger guys, because if you're gonna see kids that are like 17, 18, so like in 3 years they're like in their early 20s, and by that point they already maybe made a jump into first division,
Mhm.
or were like a star player. That's also what we need to see more of, like players that are like the star players of the teams, and you don't see that. Ricardo was talking about the bad hombres. That's part of it. You don't, and again because of so many foreigners. But you go back to like the '90s, every Mexican team had like a pretty good Mexican player.
That
You know,
a leader.
that was
Yeah. Yeah,
everyone.
Garcia,
Dude, Santo, yeah,
you know,
yeah. You could go team by team, and you had,
you're an alpha.
yeah, pretty much.
Simple as that. You
And
need an alpha on your squad, right? Someone who's going to throw that team on their shoulders. And again, I
Mexico has a
harken
bunch
back
of
to
betas.
I harken back to Cuauhtemoc, even in his advanced stage in 2010, man.
he ended up where? Veracruz, and where was he? Santos.
Puebla.
Puebla was the
Irapuato or something like
what?
yeah.
He was the what? I don't remember.
Irapuato, man.
Yeah, and he didn't give a damn, and he, he came in as a sub, played his minutes, but be damned if the team didn't, respect his ass on the field, and that's what you need, man. You need that man that is carrying, the heavy set, man.
Yo,
And you need professionals.
Jaime,
what's up?
to answer your question, on the national team, yes. Regarding the leagues, no, because I'm very disappointed with you guys, man. Last week, I mean, was it the week before? I was listening to you guys talk about how how the Blood In Blood Out FC lost to Leon in the CONCACAF final. Like not enough was made about how these guys choked, were dominated, they were slapped around, they were porked. Like Leon owned those guys, and you saw the media the same things they were saying before when that trash Pumas team lost to the Seattle whatever they're called. They weren't
listening.
They weren't saying the same. Oh, is Chiqui's here?
He was.
Oh,
dude.
No, but the media. It's the media's fault because Harvard should do an investigation of how Liga and Mex like how they shit on their own product, and they're surprised how people don't respond to what they want, because these guys want $1,000 season ticket holders in a third world country like Mexico, but then they look at the MLS and they want to copy that. And then you got a shitty team like Leon. I mean, not shitty, because they're a good team and they have a good history. They got a poor team like Leon dominating those cholos, because LAFC, all their fans are cholos, every single one of them. And if you're LAFC fan, your team is smaller than Veracruz, is smaller than Puebla, is smaller than the extinct.
They're worth $1 billion, dog.
And they got porked by Leon. Now that you mentioned that loser coach with the Chorizolo, or whatever his name is.
Chirudolo.
Yeah.
That guy's a loser, man. A certified loser scrub coach for saying what he said after that.
Good right now.
Hey, thanks for reminding me. How were you feeling this week with the rumors of Berhalter coaching Club America?
Oh, they're gonna have to find me under a tree hanging somewhere, man. I was about to. When I heard, luckily it's not him, because that dork that guy's claim to fame was bunkering against Mexico twice and in 2 horrible games and getting completely dominated by the Netherlands in the World Cup. No one says that, but it's the truth. And somehow he's some Bielsa, Bianchi, the Del Bosque mixture all in one. But that guy's a loser too. I'm glad it's that Brazilian guy from San Luis. He's gonna bring us the 18.
I am absolutely
But
convinced.
18.
Yeah, the 18th title, man.
I'm convinced that like anybody on Twitter can make up a rumor, and now it's like being passed up as real news. It literally just happened right now. I shared the tweet with you guys. There was a fake account saying that there was a fight after the match, and David Faikason's already saying it on live television that this happened, but it was totally a false rumor. It just goes to show, man, misinformation. We do have Charles the Great wanting to hop on. We'll give you the floor. Thanks for joining Cantina MX Football Podcast. Welcome to the show. You're on mute. Charles the Great can't figure out his mic situation. We'll continue to speak, but if you get it figured out, just feel free to speak up. But yeah, man, with Greg Berhalter coming to Club America, I don't know.
You
there you go.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Welcome.
The problem of Mexico team is not the player. Is the all the people that make the money in the team. Is all the people that say this player can play and this player not play. And the head coach, I love the NFL, and in Mexico the head coach, the selection of head coach is different. The head coach put the teams that have more money. The money is the first one. Today, the result is the people that have money, and the people that follow the game and want the team, our national team, won, is frustrated. This is the difference of the league. This is the difference of the last 30 years in the soccer football in Mexico.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of one of those things that are pretty obvious now. There's a lot of money being involved with the national team, and a lot of people are starting to realize how they can take advantage of the popularity of the team here in the United States. That's why we have so many friendlies here. That's why all the tournaments are here. We are a business at this point. It's no longer sport. We are a business, and
It's always been though.
but I think
Since it became professional, it's always been a business because it's.
But was it
it's
ever
a lot
this?
Of money.
Was it ever this profitable?
Yeah.
Though?
Well, I mean, Mexico has become very, very profitable. Going back, maybe the last, I don't know, probably going back to the 90s, where they started becoming one of the most profitable and even wealthiest national teams. And to maintain themselves top 15, 30 years, that's, I think that's been, for Mexican fans, a frustration where they want to be more in the top 10. But we don't have a top 10 league, to be top 10. I think we're like almost kind of at the cusp, but not exactly.
What do you mean Messi isn't going to make us a top 5 league?
What do you mean us?
Well, that's what the media is saying, that Liga MX is gonna pour from the same well as MLS. because
Yeah.
Messi.
Well, eventually they will. Yeah.
Nah, that's not gonna happen,
I'm
man.
still trying to find a. I asked this. I asked this question on Twitter. After the announcement of Messi, joining the MLS, which is still not official. Yeah, they're still trying to iron out the details. How does this benefit Mexico? How can we leverage this? And I don't really see us benefiting from this, except for the handful of games where Inter Miami will play against Liga MX teams. And Abdias is gonna have the opportunity with Cruz Azul to have that first match against Messi, and that's gonna
That-
Aquí mero, papá. Aquí mero, todos los ojos están aquí. Everyone's watching now. So what
the
that
leagues,
does is,
Sure.
like you were gonna say, Leagues Cup, CONCACAF Champions, all of these things that we've been bitching about. That there's no prestige. Why are we doing it? Nobody watches. We don't give a fuck. Here it is now. The televising deals are gonna start coming in. The advertising, all of it.
Yep.
So the way that we're gonna benefit is the fact that we're gonna ride in on coattails. That's it. We're gonna coast in and just kind of reap that money. That's how we're gonna do it, right? Because even Messi coming over still proves that the MLS is nothing more than a retirement league.
Yep, facts.
the leagues, I can talk.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir. The League MX, the better for the League MX and the national team of Mexico is go to the South American Cup. But the television um, the television that work in Mexico doesn't like it because it's not money. For Mexico, go to the MLS in a competition is only for make money. It's very good see play Messi, but not is for the real sport good for Mexico.
yeah. No, I agree.
No?
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
And this is the only way I see this working out for Mexico, right? Because now that Messi's over here in North America, Conmebol is going to make an effort to invite MLS to Copa Libertadores. And if they decide to do that, there's no way in hell Liga MX is not going to try and squeeze in and, like you mentioned, Abdias, ride the coattails of that. So, if Messi coming to the States means that they get invited to Conmebol tournaments, then I can see this panning out. But, I mean, that's a huge reach, right? What we do know is that Copa America will be here in the United States next year. So we do have that going on. And maybe when that happens, there'll also be whisperings or negotiations being done about the possibility of either going to Libertadores or, hey, we're now the cool kids on the block. Why don't we invite Conmebol to our Champions Cup, right?
So that's what's most likely
Conmebol
to
is already
happen there,
coming.
Jaime.
Huh?
The national clubs in Mexico in the better times are much better than the U.S. teams.
Yeah.
The real team of Chivas, America, Tigres, Monterrey is very much better that the MLS have with all the stars, with all the franchise players that have. But the difference is in Mexico, Televisa, the last 40 years, and TV Azteca, the last 10 years, make only money. Doesn't have the intention to make Mexico goes to win a World Cup. Doesn't matter. These enterprises only want make anuncios, no sé cómo se diga,
Commercials,
Advertising.
sponsors,
merchandising only. That's
or merchandise.
Merchandise.
Yeah.
Only that's all.
But yeah, you need the money.
In US is different. In US is all is money, all is business, all is merchandise, but the relation with the sport impact are the same. In Mexico, no.
Yeah.
Well, because the difference is that in the U.S., soccer, football, has a huge disconnect from the nation. It doesn't move the masses like it does in Mexico. It's not a passionate sport. So it's not on the same level. And let's not forget, when we go to the stadium here in the US, it's not para rebanarla. It's because I have disposable income. It's because I'm going to do this fun thing that I don't give a fuck about the
Yeah.
sport. I'm really
Yeah.
going to get drunk and engage in mob mentality.
That's true.
That's the only
Yeah.
reason why I'm going.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Now, one of the reasons why we left Comebol, right? We left Libertadores is because we no longer had the advertising rights to it. We weren't there anymore. Then now Comebol is coming
Well,
to
wait,
us.
there's also there was
Well,
a
there's the
big push
Chuck
from
Blazer and
CONCACAF.
all that.
Yeah, but there
Like, we
was
get
a
that
big
funny
push
money.
from CONCACAF to keep Mexico away. You know, they were like, we need to use Mexico for the tournaments that are CONCACAF and make sure that they have their best teams and players in these tournaments. And then that's when they said for Copa America, oh, you can only take the under 23. And
Yep,
then
and then when those
even
things
for
happen, who bails?
Libertadores, you can't send your best team to Libertadores. Has to
So
be
cuando estoy
the bottom
mandando,
team.
when I'm sending my reserves, you mean Coca-Cola still wants to pay for my halftime spot? They don't. They don't care about that. So that's how the money started moving away. Now the thing is, the champions of Copa Sudamericana are gonna come play in the CONCACAF Champions League. So Comebol is already coming to us.
Yeah.
El
That,
Yeah, because
acercamiento ya
they don't have
pasó.
money.
I
They don't have
disagree.
money.
I disagree. That's only gonna happen as long as Messi's here. As soon as he's gone,
Nah,
all
dude.
that's gonna end. All of it.
That was
Mm-mm.
announced before Messi came over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
they've
announced
been
way
trying
before.
to. Conmebol been trying to get Mexico back in Libertadores since they left. Other ad revenue in the U.S. See, the money's here. The money's in the U.S. The major money you can make. But the main thing we all have to keep in mind is that soccer is more like a hobby, and you're more gonna lose money than make money, especially for clubs. So the majority of the clubs they're in the red, and you see it where like even like Barcelona like going in debt, and you see all these big teams in Europe that are they're owned by foreigners, they're owned by oil money. And how did foreigner come in? Because they didn't have money. You know, those clubs weren't able to compete, and so someone else came in. They bought the team. It's not even owned by people from the same country. So that's I know I understand the criticism about like in Mexico how it's seen more as a business, but because it is, you know, ultimately it is, and you need money to pay for everything. And I think as fans we don't really think about all that, you know, all the cost of just maintaining the field, maintaining the stadium, paying, you know, all the staff, not just the manager and the players, but coaches and securities and you know the podologas. It's a lot of people and it's a lot of money, and we were seeing it before Liga MX got rid of they got rid of Descenso and Ascenso. They got rid of the relegation, but we were seeing all these teams that were struggling to stay in first division. that couldn't even pay players. It's embarrassing to see, how what was Jaguares, Veracruz, um,
WAP.
Yeah.
Lobos, Bua, and they're owing money to players for weeks or months, and so it's pretty tough, man, to keep the team. So you really can't blame Mex for staying in this region when there's like the potential to make way more money. And I know it does come at the cost of Mexico competitively will be better off in South America. They would. They honestly would. But at the same time, it catch 22. You need money to compete, and the only way you make money is going to be over here. So
Real quick. We do have number one first. Charles, thanks for hopping on. We hope to see you again on the podcast. We did have a few people wanting to speak, and Ramiro, you have the floor. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, man. I just want to talk about the U.S. team again. They're not that good. They're not that good. Sergio Dest could not get 1 minute with AC Milan. McKennie, you ask any Leeds fan, he's the worst player on their relegated team. Weah had 0 goals this year. Pulisic couldn't even play for Chelsea on the worst Chelsea team in years. This team they're not good, but when you put them together, they perform because they've had consistency. That's something Mexico doesn't have. I mean, we were training with players that didn't start today. We were training with them earlier. Like that. That's what we're missing. We're missing that consistency. The U.S. team is not that good.
And all right, let me play the devil's advocate, right? We still lost to them 3-0. So where does that leave us?
That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you. They have that consistency. That, like, if you watch them, they know what diagonal run to make. They're hitting those passes. This is all stuff that they trained on. They defend as a team. They block. They know when to move. And if you watch Mexico play, they don't know who the hell to guard.
So then I think you have to concede that individually they're not that good, but as a team,
exactly,
they are pretty good. But as a team, they are pretty good.
They are as a team, and that's what I'm trying to say. Is individually we're not. They're not way ahead of us. We're there with them. We're missing that consistency. We're missing that coach that we haven't had. I mean, that's all we're. I mean, Diego Coca and that 5-2-3 and 5-3-2. That shit's a mess.
And let's be honest, all these CONCACAF teams, whenever they play Mexico, they grow, man. They turn into Milan. They turn into Manchester City. They see fire. They get fire in their eyes when they see Mexico. You saw what happened to the U.S. in the World Cup. They got slapped around by Netherlands because they knew they were inferior, and they try to do that balonazo, that bunker ball USA Classic Bruce Arena style over there in the World Cup. Y valieron madre.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to find like a golden, rainbow somewhere. I mean, I don't think U.S. is that far ahead of us.
Look, I agree with you. I agree with you. Like, look, the hit, the numbers speak for themselves, right? Like, on paper, we're better, whatever. At the end of the day, though, like, we still have to beat them, and we're not, and we haven't been doing it for the last 2-3 years, right? So something's got to change.
And yeah, honestly, I feel more embarrassed today than that 7-0 golazo that Chile gave us. Today was fucking horrible. Like, on the field. Sorry, excuse my language.
No, you're good.
That was bad.
Yeah.
We talk spicy in the cantina.
Yeah, man.
Oh, really?
That 7-0 was bad, though.
That was bad, man. But we knew it was that shit happens, man. Sometimes you have a bad game, but they dominated from the first minute. It could have been 5-0, honestly, easy. I mean, Pulisic missed that easy shot.
Yep.
Who else missed? Yeah, I mean, this could have been a lot worse than what it was, honestly.
And it was.
Do you not remember that 7-0, dude?
No, I remember.
He got fist fucked.
No.
All right, it wasn't a nice experience.
I remember, but look, Brazil got slapped around by Germany too. I mean, it happens. Like, that's once in a lifetime bullshit,
Yeah.
But a domination like this, that's rough, man.
We have Al Pastor, our one of our reoccurring guests here. But yeah, I'll have
1 second.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna give you a silver lining. All right. We're about to get a new coach. All right, we give it like 2 more months, and we have a new coach. There's our silver lining.
There you
It's
go.
like, hey, look, this car is
They're
totaled,
gonna hire Profe
but
Cruz
at least we have a
también.
new chauffeur.
Yeah.
Al Pastor, what you got for us, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going? Going off that silver lining right there, you know, the rumor is that he wanted to talk to players at the center circle and they all blew him off and just kept going their way. If that is true, he should be gone just for that alone. Obviously, he has like no control of the locker room whatsoever. But my point is not about him having him gone. I think we all said that, you know, if Mexico shitted the bed in the World Cup, that the good news that would be that the Federación will get their act together. And that never happened. They came out and said they had a 60 days to come out and look for something.
Sorry about that.
No, they said they were going to take 60 days to do the best thing for Mexico. And what happened? We're even worse off than we were in Qatar. Like, literally, this project has no head, feet, legs, nothing. And then the thing with U.S., you know, they'll think they're better. They think they own Mexico. No, man, you're playing against a brown paper bag full of shit lit on fire. Anyone can beat that. Like, this team has nothing. Doesn't mean the U.S. is amazing. It's like Romero was talking about, you know, just like their team is trash at the club level, but at the national team level, they got their shit organized. And I know Jolie, you know, says that, you know, they don't leave their players, you know, leave for that much free. But tell me if you ever heard any of these guys. Josh Winder, Barry, Kobe Henry, Jose Gallegos, Fleming, Diego Luna. You probably never heard these guys, but you know who these guys are? These are young players that are leaving USL, their second division, to teams like Benfica, Reims, Sele. Like, they're leaving the top, not top, but like middle of the table teams in Europe for 300,000, 500,000, a million. They're exporting. And the US has that benefit that they don't need to take the big money now, that USL teams are exporting players. You see Liga Expansión exporting players to Europe? Not even Liga MX is exporting players to Europe. You know what I compare this to? I compare this to Mexico to England, where the league is amazing, but the national team sucks. And I compare the U.S. to France. If you ask scouts around the world what's one of the best like scouting leagues, like development leagues in the world, they'll tell you France. The talent in France is crazy, but no one thinks their league is amazing. No one thinks MLS amazing, but they're developing players. France is developing players, and it shows at the national team level. Mexico is doing nothing as far as development. It's not like just because they play all these tournaments around the world, and what? That's not development. What were you doing for the next step? What are you doing for the next step so they go to Europe, so it shows in the national team level? It's all about money. I think his name Charles was talking about. That's all I care, man. It's just the money.
I'm not convinced though that going to Europe makes you a better player. We've had a bunch of players that went and they came back on loan. Now they're back in Necaxa and stuff. Like, you don't come back. You don't come back like, oh, I'm European
now. That's
now.
what it speaks about, the development, that you're not developing them. I saw somebody the other day tweet that what's his name, Jurgen Damm, is a true example, like the small Mexican mentality, that he had he had like a European passport, so he could have left to Europe, and he never did because he stayed here for the big bucks. I'm like, Jurgen Damm sucks.
He tried out at like United, and he got cut because he sucked ass.
That's what I'm saying.
He saw what we all saw.
That's my point. Jurgen Damm sucks. He has no technical ability. He's all speed. He has no brakes. He has no defensive ability. He's like the 99-cent version of Chucky Lozano. And I don't blame him for not leaving, even if he has a passport, because he's not developed. He has no talent. So that's what I'm saying. We're not developing players, man.
We're not. All right. So I agree with you a little bit. Like, Mexico has shown that they can do really well at the youth level, right? We have 2 World Cups. And I think this is where we're fucking up, is the handoff from, let's say, under 17, under 20 to actually making your debut in the professional league. Something's missing there. We're not doing something correctly. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's slowing down the process. I don't know why they're 22, 23 years old and they're like, oh no, he's not ready yet. Where we have Mbappe winning World Cup at 19, right? So there is a huge disconnect from that and getting your debut and getting minutes in Liga MX. Joel mentioned, because of the amount of foreigners that are taking up spots, that could be one of them.
Yeah,
But we also
that's
have
the main one.
we also have young players that are going straight to Europe without even debuting in Mexico. That happened to Carlos Vela, right? Giovanni Dos Santos. Like, these guys went straight to Europe. No one's holding them back. No one's holding them hostage. We've done that, and it hasn't really come out to fruition. Like Bizuto, right? He went to Lille. He got injured, unfortunately. He won he was part of the championship team with Lille, but he didn't really part. He was injured. Now he's back at Tigres. It's like, we look at Lightness, bro. Like, we sent him out. He won a championship with America. He goes to Betis. Maybe he picked the wrong horse, but these players are not going out in Europe and being successful. And I'm not convinced that we should just start throwing everybody out there and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, well, just really quick. See, the whole thing with the players and the foreigners, the biggest money makers for Liga MX is selling players. So there's a so it's cheaper for them to buy South Americans, and then they sell them for 2-3 times, and so that's how they make a lot of money. And
To each other.
well, they still make money, and there's also that whole corrupt stuff where there's a lot, you know, money laundering, and that's what's used as well. And you had a lot of teams, including Atlas, a bunch of teams, Querétaro, and all that. They were, that were cartels that already were using them to. Necaxa is another one, and these all teams I mentioned. You could Google and you'll find articles on that. Um, on how some of these teams have been infiltrated, and I think that's still going on with
But you
with
don't
the
even need
money.
to find articles. They're doing it right in your face.
Well, I mean, I'm just
What's the
saying,
story
because I
broken?
don't want this to be a trust me, bro, but more of like what I'm saying is verified stories that have happened, and a big reason why they got rid of promotion relegation, because it was easier to infiltrate a new team coming in, or teams needing money, and so this way it's sort of like who the owners are, and it's easier to have control over these teams and to see what's going on. But that's the thing, and like Jaime saying, that disconnect. Well, yeah, you'll have some younger guys from like under 15, under 17 that did well, and then they return to their clubs, but you have all these other players already taking up the spots, so they just send them to the background and to these under 20 leagues and whatnot, and they sort of rot. But again, I mean, I do think by changing the rules for the second division, Liga de Expansión, whatever they want to call it, I do think that's where we're going to start seeing, all of these players start getting their just due.
And
Now,
all the foreign coaches that are in Mexico. Who is the
Oh,
foreign coach
man.
going to play? The young Mexican
Yeah.
club player or the foreigner that is promoter that got him
Yeah.
the job is gonna tell him to
Excellent
play.
point. Yep.
And that goes with the corruption and talking about, like, there's that promoter, that agent sitting right there in the VIP suite with all the FMF directivos as well, which it just shows.
Bragarnik.
Yeah, it just shows you like everything goes on with it. And like Ricardo, you're an America fan. Like, I'm not an America fan, but I look at Henry Martin and I see that he's a player that shows up in regular games, but doesn't show up in playoffs, doesn't show up in important games with Mexico. And you have him coming off like, that stint with America, nothing in Liguilla. And you have a guy like Santi, whether we think the Dutch league is a farmers league or not, he's coming off a great season, and you still have no reason to start him.
Yep.
Like why are you
it's because
not
he's got
starting?
the
Like,
Peso
what?
Pluma
Or
cut,
like
bro.
Toño Rodriguez. He never gets called up to the national team. Xolo's owner's part of the national team board. Votes for Coca to be coach, and now all of a sudden Toño starts getting called up to the national team. Like, they're
You
doing
wanted
it in front of
Huicho?
our faces, man. Like, they don't give a fuck. They're just about here to make the money. As long as the money keeps coming in and the moleros keep filling up, that's all that matters.
That's why I always thought that Trump had a point when it came to the Mexicans, because I think he was trying to save Mexican football. Because when I see the TV, I see all those Mexicans in the stands. I feel disgusted, man, because it's their fault that Mexico is where it's at right now. Because like you said, they keep buying the shit product. Why do I need to change my shit product if people keep buying the shit? And regarding Henry Martin, you're right. I mentioned before that I went to Las Vegas like last month, and I gotta experience one of my dreams that I wanted to go see David Copperfield, and I think Henry Martin and Alexis Vega can give that guy a run for his money with the disappearing mask.
Órale, dude.
They should call him Alexis El Prestige Vega.
I don't. I think you guys are a bit harsh with FMF. I do think they've been doing a lot of things right. They're not always gonna get it right. You know, they always look to bring in a top coach. They brought Martino. That's as top as you can get. I mean, you guys don't like him, but his resume where he coached Barca, he coached Argentine national team. He's been at the World Cup. I mean, he's done it all as far as like when you see what the media would have the expectations and even fans, and they brought that guy. Yeah, he didn't do good. He didn't do that bad either because Max elimination was basically came down to goal differential.
And he quit twice on the team.
He did, but,
and he gave up that game against Argentina. He should be investigated for.
Hey.
And is it bringing in a top coach, or is it bringing in someone that you're going to pay very well, who's not from here? So you're going to tell them this is how we do things, and I need you to do things like this.
That's what the fans were asking for, man. I mean, you guys were asking for that. You guys hate nationals. No, even in Mexico, man.
Yo estoy pidiendo nacional.
I know, but we're in the minority here, man.
Now, here's the other thing. If we want to talk about doing things right, then why didn't we give the team over to Jimmy Lozano? Why didn't we continue that generational change?
Just because he was third place. Sorry,
taking us to the Olympics, getting us a medal, knowing the lower ranks of who's coming up and what the good generational change looks like.
Tena got a gold medal. You guys hate Tena, and Tena won the gold medal.
Jimmy would have been a great assistant.
Brazil, dude, in the final.
I'm not ready.
Yes, I would take him as assistant.
I would take him as assistant, bro. You can't just give him the national team. But
yeah, but he didn't want to be an assistant. That's part of it.
Well,
yeah, that's true.
Man,
see?
you gotta.
Sometimes
sometimes you gotta take one for the team.
I still stand by this. I want the most indigenous looking guy in Quetzalcoatl. That's who I want them to bring in once they replace Coca. Yeah, I mean I want to see Nacho Quetzalcoatl in there.
Nacho going to emerge from the water.
I want him holding his wife in his arms for a picture. I mean,
it's either him or Chima Ruiz.
No mames, güey. I want to see that.
Chima Ruiz.
Him holding his wife in the
Maybelline Brown. Let's get Maybelline Brown or Wiki. Wiki Dios.
Nacho, man.
Hey, Diaz, I was gonna ask you a question. You guys were on the brink of acquiring 2 players from Santos, and they both failed their medical test.
They did. I haven't really been. I've been seeing it. I haven't done much digging into it, and now we're scrambling, right? Because we let go of our defenses, right? Catas out, Vacas out, and now the 2 that were supposed to come in are not. So, and as always, now starts the rumors of we're looking into South America. That's not going to be the move, guys. What are we going to get? Another fucking Funes Mori coming in for just 1 year to just kick it? No thanks.
What happened to like your guys' academy? Like you guys don't have nothing in there, man? Nothing in the bullpen?
Yeah, they had a really good academy for years.
Man, what Mexican team has an academy right now except like 3 or 4?
Chivas, Pachuca. That's about it.
Exactly.
What was that Uruguayo guy? His name was with an M, Macarian or
Who are you talking about?
What was his? He was
The
Cruz
coach?
Azul coach from Uruguay. It was
Marcarian, yeah.
what
Marcarian,
was
yeah.
it?
Marcarian, I think.
Marcarian.
Yeah.
He used to play a lot of the youth, man. I remember watching a Chihuahua game one time, and there was like almost 20 Mexicans in there, man. I was like, that was my ideal Liga MX.
How long ago was this?
Oh, dude, I can't remember,
There's
man.
the answer, man. That was my answer. That's all I wanted to hear. Like, hey, man, like, I know, like, we rip on MLS a lot, but I've said this before in this podcast. Go to the MLS website after the weekend games, and they'll show you, like, the top 5 players under 18 that played. You got guys scoring goals, assisting goals, playing 90 minutes. That's what I mean by development. They're bringing the players
Well, getting
up, and they're
playing
playing
time.
them. They're getting the playing time. They're getting the playing time with quality players too. I mean, there's a lot of quality players, man.
But you know, a lot of these dudes wouldn't
But all right.
start in Liga MX.
Here's the problem,
You know,
man.
that-
Is the expectations of Liga MX are too high. Like we are on a good day in the top 10 in the world as far as league. We can't go back to being an experimental league, and nobody gives a fuck about the MLS, right? So they can just keep debuting all these players, and no one's gonna blink an eye because no one was expecting much anyways. Obviously, you bring in your DPs, your Messis to try and balance that out. But MLS is like kind of like a sandbox. You can just whatever, dude. No one cares. No one's blinking. No one's watching anyways. So like with Liga
But that
MX,
doesn't make sense because it's the same thing with Liga MX. No one cares about Liga MX outside of
Bro.
Mexico and US.
have you seen the
You told
TV
me-
ratings? We outperformed Champions League, dog.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
In the US
the
and
US.
Mexico.
In the US. That's
no
what
What
I'm
more do you
saying.
need,
about
man?
Liga MX
What-
outside of here.
You don't need
me in
outside of
Spain,
here.
you tell me in France, you tell me in England and Australia, New Zealand, they care about Liga MX and they want the standard to be high because they care about the quality. That's a lie we tell ourselves. We care
Tell
about
them,
Liga,
Habibi.
we care about Liga MX here in the US. We care about Liga MX in Mexico. But in Guatemala, Colombia, Brazil, they don't care if you're debuting 16-year-olds and they're not ready, or if you have Guignac playing in Tigres. They don't care about none of that. It's
look
like
at
go west in South America about Chivas. Pretty much no teams know about Chivas. They know about Medica because all the foreigners that have come out of South America and
No,
played.
people
Hey,
know about
so
Chivas in South America.
You drop Chivas in South
I-
America,
I've been
people
there.
respect that, bro.
Yes, they do, man. I was
You
in
know it
Paraguay.
from Libertadores, but like from
Well, they know,
Libertadores to your
see?
soccer fanatic. But my point is, like, to your casual fans, same thing. Outside of the U.S. and Mexico, no one cares about Liga MX.
But there's
If,
enough.
if, if
There's
that
enough.
hype for Liga
Look,
MX
dude.
But
is
why do you want them to care? Like, why does that matter? It's not going to make a difference.
No, my I don't want them to care. Your
So why bring it up?
argument is that we're not playing youth players because Liga MX has such a high standard, and MLS can waste its time playing 16 and 17-year-olds because no one watches it and no one cares. It's the same thing about Liga MX. Outside of Mexicans that watch Liga MX in the U.S. and then Mexico, Canadians, Americans, you name it, could care less if Liga MX has stars like Guignac, and they're also playing the random 17-year-olds who he can develop.
Do any? Let me ask you this: are any of those scrubs that you mentioned for that the MLS produces the teenage phenoms that are going to be the next Pele, like Freddie Adu and
Freddie
all those
Boo Boo.
guys? Yeah. Are any of those guys that you mentioned? Would any of them start for America, Cruz Azul, or Chivas right now? I don't think they do.
Yeah, they
That's where it
won't.
matters.
Well, yeah, and it's also a numbers game,
No,
you know?
but this is the opposite end. Okay, let's say none of them start for America, none of them start for Cruz Azul or whatever. But you don't have no youth kids starting for America or Cruz Azul that are Mexican. So at least they're getting a shot over here.
But they can't do
Well,
that
you
here,
have-
bro,
you
because
have
we
very
have
few.
we have a short season
that's the
format.
argument,
It
the same
doesn't.
thing we
Yeah,
don't make the
that's
same
a big
argument that
part
we
of it.
criticize Federativos for.
Look,
Your
dude,
argument is
we-
these kids are not ready to play for our Liga MX powerful team, so why should we give them a shot?
You have
Let's
to-
bring
Some of them aren't.
somebody that is ready. Let's bring in the foreigner.
You have to understand
Yeah.
a couple things. Number one, again, going back to the expectations of the league, they want to see a high quality product. Number two, we are designed for, like instant gratification because of the short season. You have 17
Yep.
fixtures. You have a playoff. You don't have time to debut these players and give them a leash, right? So it's like we can't do that in our league. We just can't. And
Then change the platform.
what we
That's the
should
answer.
do, this is what we should do. The Liga de Expansión, the second division, there should be no foreigners in there. That's where we can experiment. That's where we can
I
debut.
think that's what it is now, isn't it?
I don't think so,
Or
bro.
they only put 3.
I think
No,
it's
Three or
only,
four.
no,
yeah.
if only there was a way of knowing.
our second division should be that
I
opportunity,
know this
that
one.
sandbox.
It is going to be that though. That's
It's-
where I've been.
All right, hold on. I'll bring in some info on this one. So it's going to be a little bit different. All right. So the affiliate groups, so like Tapatillo, they
Yeah.
have to play with only Mexicans. They cannot bring any
Well,
foreigners.
I mean, that's a
Like,
given,
if-
dude. Come on.
I know, but hold on. Like if Cruz Azul,
Let 'em
if Cruz
cook.
Azul has their affiliated team in the second division, they have to play with nothing but Mexicans. Now, if you're like, I don't know, let's call it
Cancun.
Lobos Negros, Cancun,
Okay,
one of
yeah,
those,
I get
right?
what you mean.
One of those shitty ones, that then you can bring in, I think it's up to 4 foreign nationals to play on your team. You're
Okay,
still
so
limited.
the teams that are affiliated, the second division teams affiliated to first division teams can only field the Mexican players.
Yes, that's
But
exactly.
if you don't have a team in first division, because you're like your own team, like Morelia, Irapuato, then you're allowed 3 to 4 foreigners.
That's it. That's exactly what's happening right
okay.
there. And
See,
then a
that's
certain
I love it.
percentage, if like, so those guys that can bring in foreigners, well, a certain percentage of your Mexicans have to be under this age.
See, and it makes
right?
sense because they're thinking of like opening up the promotion again.
We gotta treat this like baseball, man. You got your fucking AAA team. That's where you put your talent at. And once they start
Yeah.
performing well, guess what? You promote them to the first division. That's what Chivas have been doing. The problem is all the other 17 motherfuckers aren't doing it. Chivas are the only team doing it. So it's like y'all need to pick up the weight, bro.
Well, they had no choice. They had no choice. They weren't doing it because they wanted to. Like before when they were able to pick players from the other clubs, they weren't exactly pouring that much money into their youth.
Yeah. I think Elbow dropped off, but he can. I think I just got him back on. We are getting close to the 2 hour mark, but keep going.
I
Yeah,
missed part. Go ahead, Noel.
No, we were. You dropped off. Where did you drop off at?
I think I caught a little bit about the treating the second division as a minor league.
Well, yeah, that's what they did. The league just made it to be like that.
No, I didn't. And yeah, I mean, you have to have some sort of development system, and if that's it, then yeah, I mean, if you have to treat it that way, you'll have a kind of a AAA or AA and so on.
Yeah,
until you can.
it's just gonna take 3 to 4 years to see results, but I mean, it's there, so it sort of takes.
So back when I was coaching out here in the Bay Area, we tried to do that with the club. So the one thing, and I got to assume this is more complicated at the professional level. It's the whole getting. You have to get coaches and front office that are all on the same page, because if not, it just doesn't work out. And we tried to do that when I was coaching, and the different coaches wanted to do their own thing. It becomes complicated. It can work, but you really have to work hard to get that chemistry at the front office and coaching level, man.
And did it work out?
No, not for us, because like our team was the team I was coaching was happy to feed the team right above us, right? So we would have been like the AAA team.
Wait, was this football or were you coaching?
No, I was coaching
softball?
football.
Or were you coaching?
No, football.
All right.
I was coaching U19s.
Dodgeball. Touch time.
but the difference between football and I like that comparison that Jaime said about the baseball, about the double A and the triple A and the minor leagues. Because now that he mentioned that, they interviewed. I was watching. I forget for what team. This tall white guy. I think he plays for the Pirates. They were interviewing him. A guy was interviewing him in Spanish, and they were talking to him about how he knows Spanish, right? And he said, "Oh, because in the minor leagues, it's full of Dominicans, full of Cubans, full of Puerto Ricans, right? And they all understand that if they don't make it, their family doesn't eat it." And that's what he said. But the difference between baseball and football is that if you're not good enough to cut it in baseball in the minor leagues, you don't make it to the big leagues. In Liga MX, they keep pushing the scrubs up to play, even though they know they're not good. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
Yeah. And it used to be because there was a requirement from the league where certain amount of minutes had to be dedicated to players under the age of 22 or something. So it was like a requirement, and if you weren't up to code, you'd get fined. So a lot of the time there was just players just getting played for no reason, just because they had to hit their quota, right? So
Well, the reason was because we were trying to develop them for the national team, because Mexico's always been struggling with developing talent, at least as of late couple, 10 years? And that's where that, what was it, 20-30 rule
I don't know if I agree with that. Because, I mean, if you go back to that, you had Chicharo went, and his stats up until like a few years ago, like his stats on goals scored per minute, dude, they were up there with some of the best strikers in EPL. It's crazy to see how insane, how good he was doing. And it just sucks he ended up with that coach. Same coach in two different clubs.
Moyes.
Kind of hated him. Yes, Moyes. And then that other, the Dutch guy, also hated him, dude. He would make a steak face every time Chicharo was around. And that's just unfortunate because I think he would have. Yeah, dude, he didn't like him, dude. You could just tell, man.
Siempre negativo.
From Beavis and Butthead, man.
But I mean, dude, and just his first season, over 20 goals across all competitions. That's why when I hear like, oh, well, you didn't develop, or we're not developed. I mean, Raul Jimenez before his injury, I mean, dude, insane what he was doing. He wasn't developed at Atletico Madrid or any of the Portuguese clubs. He was developed at America, and so I mean.
Yeah, but then Raul Jimenez put on the kryptonite shirt, and he would disappear.
But we're talking about club football right now. So I mean, at least at the club level and in Europe, you have these Mexicans that went over there and succeeded, and they were developed in Mexico. So kind of goes against that point of like, you need to go over there. And like Jaime brought up earlier, we've had players that went at a young age and were supposedly developed because they were there 2 to 4 years, and then they come back and they couldn't even hold the first division spot in Mexico.
Well, we've talked about this in the past. It's not so much that they lose it. Like, they come back and they hold it for the first season and a half, but then they get complacent. They get lazy and they lose them.
Well, I don't know about lazy. I mean, some of them, they were just
Ulises Davila comes to mind. Dude went to Chelsea, got loaned out of he never even stepped foot at Stamford Bridge, professionally. And ends up going back to Santos. He didn't even make it the team there. Now he's like traveling all over the world. But
it was like in New Zealand or somewhere.
That's Uriel Antuna as well, right? Same thing.
I was about to mention him, Antuna.
The Chivas goalkeeper.
Godinho.
He was in Portugal.
Godinho.
Training under the Spanish guy. I forget his name. But
Javier Aquino.
Come to me.
No.
The goalkeeper. He was from Real Madrid. No, the goalkeeper.
Casillas.
Yes, Casillas. He's training under him, seeing him on a day-to-day, and comes back, can't even hold the Chivas spot. He lost it to a guy that had been in Tapatio all that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why for me it's hard to the whole go over there, and then you're just, you're going to get taller, your dick's going to get bigger and all that. It just doesn't really happen, dude. If you're good no matter where you play. You know that saying they say, que es gallo donde quiera canta.
Exactly.
I,
The cream rises to the top.
I don't have an issue with the players going to try their luck in Europe, but if you're going to go over there and you're not Hugo Sanchez or Chicharito, who got the shot to play a big teams off the bat, uh, you know, a picar piedra. You know, if you're going out there, aguantar. You know, you got to go out there and take your lumps and work at it, man.
Well, Cole, and that's my thing. I'm not against them going abroad. I'm against the mentality that because you go, that you're gonna get better. Like almost as if it's a given or a guarantee. So yeah, I don't mind if a player's gonna try their luck, or that's where they want. Like Corbelin, he went and he had his goal. Oh, not even Orbelin. Pavel Pardo, dude, had the interview and
yeah.
Hello?
He was a little bit older and ended up over at Stuttgart, right?
Yeah, but he had an interview, and dude, I'm forgetting the guy that sent it to me. I'm sorry, but it was a
German
really
guy?
good interview.
The German guy?
No. One
Was
of
it
the
Medrano or?
No, I'm talking about one of the podcast listeners. He sent me an interview with Pavel Pardo, and so I'm just apologizing that I forgot his name. But it's very telling, the interview, because you can see his mentality, and he talked about, like, when he went to Stuttgart, one of the main reasons was because he wanted to play Champions League, and he said the only way they could play Champions League, he knew it, but back then is they were first or second place. This was before the top 5 teams went. It was just the top 2 back then. And he had that mentality, man. And they go and they end up winning the league, which was massive if you think about, winning the league in the Bundesliga when it's always Bayern or Dortmund. And they win it with Stuttgart, and then he does end up playing Champions League. But he had that mentality, and he had already gone also developed.
Yeah, no, and you have like Guardados. I think what he played like a couple seasons over at Atlas. Went to, was it PSV?
He went to
Deportivo.
Deportivo La Coruña.
Okay.
Then Valencia.
Right.
Then he got loaned out to Bayern Leverkusen, didn't do well, returned, and then I think that's when he went to Holland.
Yeah. And then some of the other players that have done a little bit better went through the Dutch league, kind of to get their feet wet, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Massa, Salcido, even Hector Moreno.
Hey, but I wanted to mention something about, because I thought I'm thinking about a different interview. Joel was talking about El Bebé Pardo, and they interviewed this German guy, his teammate, and they were talking to him about El Bebé, and he was like, "Oh, I love playing with him." And I remember when he just came, to Stuttgart, he's a good. You could, off the bat, you could see he's a very good player, but the only thing lacking, he said, was that he's used to training only once a day, like they do in Mexico, and that's what caught my eye. That's what really caught my attention. I mean, he's like, and over here we're doing two a days training, and he didn't really like that. That's what he said.
Yeah, man, it's just a level of competition and level of intensity in Europe, and I think that's the only thing that they have over Mexico. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think that it's necessarily like the capacity or the talent, right, or the ability to learn. I just think it's like they hold themselves a little bit to higher standards when it comes to conducting themselves professionally, taking care of their mental health, their physical health, and obviously when it comes to training, like fucking going all in, and like I said, training once or twice a day, a little bit more technical. Like there was a video of like, oh, look at Cordova warming up for Mexico. He's taking it very seriously, and it was like him behind the goal looking at his phone, right? It's like I niveles, way. I niveles.
Yeah. The short version of it is they take their profession seriously. It's that simple, right?
That's exactly it. So I was listening to an interview from Jimmy Lozano not too long ago, where he was talking about how he likes to go in and watch other coaches train. right? And he was able to go see Pep Guardiola and a couple other really high end coaches in Europe. And he said the big difference that I noticed between Mexican training and European training is that in Mexico, we train to stay in shape, while in Europe, they train to get better, meaning they're doing two a days, they're doing more drills, they're going flat out in every single training. While here, hey, I just need you guys to stay crisp for the weekend. I just need you guys que se queden calientes.
Yeah, you're just maintaining your level, but you're not evolving. And
Yep, and that was the big thing that he saw the difference
yeah,
between like the European mentality of yo, I'm here to grind, I'm here to picar piedra.
and I'm not entirely convinced that. I mean, I know in Mexico, it's not like we're too far behind, but I know that especially in the Prem League and the top leagues in the world, they have a lot of technology that they're leveraging. Right? They're all wearing those like man bras. They're all seeing how much output they're doing. They're analyzing tape. They're analyzing film. They have a lot of data, and they're leveraging that technology and looking at the efficiencies and all that stuff. So again, it's like another level, right? Like world class, and that's the difference, really. And honestly, I'm not convinced that we're that far behind. It's just it takes a little bit more focus, and it takes someone that has a long term project and vision for the team, for the country, right? I mean, like you look at Germany and like their goal of like winning the World Cup, like that was not like a 4 year journey. That was like a 10, 20 year. They thought this through, and they kept their coach for like a long time, right? So I mean, that's what it takes to win a World Cup is a long project where everyone's on board. You have a certain style of play, and you start that from the 17 all the way up to the professional top, level. By the time you get debuted, you already know exactly what you're doing because you've been in this format for such a long time. And
What if I told you we had that, Jaime?
at one point, we did.
Yes, we did. Got rid of the guy who was overseeing the project.
Yeah. Um, really quickly though, we are at time. I wanted to ask one last question, and I'll let you guys go one by one. So this is the question to end the podcast for tonight. Also, thank you for all the listeners that hopped in. We hope to see you guys next week. But I'll leave you guys with this. Tomorrow morning, they announced Diego Coca has been fired. Who do you want as coach?
Are you really asking me, Jaime? You know my answer.
Let's hear it.
Nacho Cuadro.
Nacho Ambriz.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who's next?
I'll go in here. All right. So I have two options, right? So as we said, Nacho Cuadro. That's who I want. I want like, wait, quiero ver la representación de mis primos, ¿verdad? Los que viven en el monte en el equipo nacional. So I want to see those guys there. And if not, if we want to go more for like the Whitexicans, all right, give me Guillermo Almada. All right. Those two styles of play, I think, can really take us there.
I'd take Larcamon.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'd put my chips with him, even though I would like some indigenous representation, some Aztec, some like elbow drops at some Aztec warriors. But I think that guy's a good coach, man, and he really got on my good side by beating the LAFC team, and that was like a double whammy for me because Chivas lost and then LAFC lost. Oh man, I was over the moon.
Imagine that's what it takes for you to get over the fact that your team sucks ass, man. You have to live through other people's losses. Who's next? We got Al Pastor. Who would you put in?
Realistic answer, Ambriz. It's time to put some national pride back on the team. You know, that Chivas xenophobia, but better be a Mexican or no one else in charge. You know, remind the players of what it means to sudar la camiseta as a Mexican, something that a foreigner can't do. But on a romantic choice. Hey man, the guy who's always brings the best out of Mexicans and feels like he's Mexican himself, Matias Almeida. He's done well in Chivas. He's done well in Greece. He's brought the best out of Orbelin. He brought the best out of trophies in San Jose. He knows how to bring the best out of players. He's a hard worker. He ain't bullshitting around. He just wants to win and create a good ambiance. But yes, give me a Ambriz, give me a Mexican, and put some pride back on the team. If not, dame a Mati.
Is he gonna take Chivander with him?
Hey, he done had Chivander in Greece, even if it's a fisherman's league.
We might win the World Cup that way, man.
No, do you need a Mexican? No foreign coach has ever won the World Cup, but no, honestly, I would take a Mexican. I don't think Jimmy Lozano's ready. Ideally, I wanted Bielsa, and we had him. He had said yes. I wanted Bielsa, and I wanted Rafa Marquez as his assistant. So once Bielsa stood down, Rafa could take over. But, that's a perfect, logical world, which FMF is not about.
Joel, what you got for me, bro?
You guys are gonna hate me, but see, I
Oh,
like
don't
I
say
like
it.
Nacho. Yes, I like Nacho, but
Stop there.
You're gonna say Piojo. You say Piojo.
Yeah,
I know you're gonna say
yes, I
Piojo.
am. I am
say
gonna say
Piojo.
Piojo. He, dude. I think Nacho needs better players. I think the one thing that Piojo has, he could get some of these guys that suck to overperform. That's what we need right now. We need some of these dudes to overperform, man.
I would much rather have Piojo about a year before the World Cup, man.
Yes, I would have taken Piojo December 2021.
There you go. See, I would be good with that too.
Because he's a good bombero, I think.
Put my boy Piojo to light a fire in their ass, and then once they're ready, you can hand it over to the other guy.
Hey, it could be worse. It could be like the U.S. They're getting Greg Ballhalter back, according to The Athletic. So they fired him. They hired a consulting firm to see who's their next coach. They went through 2 interim coaches, and they're bringing him back. All that for nothing.
No money. No money.
We're just gonna pretend you stopped that. I like Nacho.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know you were gonna say Piojo because you like to be edgy.
Look, the Piojo means we're the best, all right? He's going to be on the sideline going Super Saiyan, forcing the guys to go Ultra Instinct, okay? I understand it and I get it. Pero wait, no mames. Dame Nacho Cuadro por lo menos. I think, have you not seen the way that he has Toluca performing?
There would have been more red cards, including one for himself. That's all I'm
You don't know,
True.
man. We don't know that.
No, wait. Piojo le hubiera metido un fregazo a alguien. Like, and we all know that one.
Oh yeah, Piojo would have been the first one to throw putazos today for sure.
Chris, that's assuming the team would have gotten rocked. That's assuming the team would have gotten rocked, and I don't think they would have. I don't think he. How was his record here in I think he rarely lost. And thinking of his matches.
Yeah.
He had him zooming.
I'll tell you right now, Piojo's not the answer. I know he's a temporary fix. He's a cheerleader. He's a player's coach, right? He knows how to get into the psyche of the players, get everybody on board, and that you need
build
that.
a good locker room.
You need that. You need that a coach that can do that. At the same time, he's not going to elevate us or do anything that hasn't already been done, right? And if we really want to go next level and take us where we haven't been before, if I had to pick a Mexican coach. All right, I'm just going to say it. Why not bring Hugo Sanchez back? Give him the shot. I know he's been inactive for like a decade, but at this point, I'd rather have Hugo than Coca.
I actually like Hugo.
As far as...
Are you going to give him the 10-year process that he's asking for?
10 years and 80 Mexicans in Europe.
I think he should get another shot at it. If I had to pick, like, all right... Based on what we've seen so far, I do like Almada. It sounded like he was going to be the coach. He showed he could win with young players at Pachuca. I would have loved to have him on board. We would have probably been in better shape than we are now. And for my personal choice, I would love to have a Serbian back. We had Bora coach the national team before. And
Oh,
for selfish reasons, I want Paunovic to stay at Chivas because he's turned things around in 6 months. I can't imagine what he would do at the national team level. And maybe one day he can, after he wins a couple titles with Chivas, maybe they'll convince him to coach the national team. But yeah, those are my hot takes.
couple titles in Chivas. Chivas wins once every 10 years, so in 30 years.
Nah, man, we're gonna be back to the final next season. We're gonna handle business, and
You're just gonna need 2 penalty
How,
calls against
bro? JJ Mack
Atlas.
broke himself again.
no, not again.
I have a quick hot take.
Yeah,
If Santi Jimenez was not Argentinian born, if he was like Mexican born, like Omar Bravo, Chicharito, whatever the case, and after the season he had, would the media be going crazy? Would the fans be going crazy? Would there be no excuse for him not to be a starter over Henry Martin?
I don't think
I
that
think
has anything to do with it.
I think he would, man. I
There
don't know.
is no excuse for him to not be a starter over Henry
Everyone's
Martin.
embraced him as Mexican. He's embraced it as Mexican. I don't think it has nothing.
Yeah.
I don't think it has anything
So
to do
why
with.
is the world not going crazy about him not being a starter?
I fucking
Does the
am.
team change if he's the starter? I don't think it does.
Does the team improve with Henry Martin as the starter?
No, I'm not implying that, but I'm saying it
No, I'm
doesn't
saying of the
improve
two
or change.
options, it just seems like crazy to me. To me, I'm getting
It-
like Guille Franco, Chicharito vibes
I was about
right
to
now.
say that, man. It's like the same scenario. For some reason, the coach just doesn't want to give him his flowers. And I don't know, man. I don't know what it's gonna take Coca to get fired for us to see that come into fruition. So we'll see what happens on Sunday, guys. We have an obligatory match against Panama for third place. No one really cares about. If you happen to go to that game in Vegas, bless your soul. And you know what? We'll be back here next week with more Cantina action. Well, I'm sorry we weren't able to get to everybody on the request today. We had a lot of action, but come back next week. Follow us on Twitter, and we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good night.